Hello, you're listening to Hibs Talk. I'm your host as always, Gav. Joining me today is Craig.
Alright.
Dave.
Alright.
And Stuart.
Hi, Gav.
He remembered.
He does.
How are you guys doing?
Good
Hi,
night.
not too bad. I'm absolutely delighted to report that I get to leave the house at midnight tonight, so that's good.
Quarantine's almost over.
Anyway.
Whatever you do, didn't go to Dubai.
So yeah, apologies, we were slightly late there. Thank you for everybody that sort of joined in the chat. Jump through what you guys have been kind of saying and reacting to the match. Get your reactions in there. For those that are watching live, for those that are listening as a podcast, enjoy the podcast. But yeah, we're obviously we're recording this straight after the Celtic game. It finished 28 minutes ago, or roughly about that. But yeah, this is the first time we've kind of done it. Dave has mentioned, I think you mentioned a podcast a few weeks ago, Dave. We usually like to wait to give ourselves a day to kind of stew on things. So, but yes, let's try a straight after the game reaction. How are you feeling about it?
That's a good point, mate. I'm really happy with the point. Kidding on. Just 'cause
So a small disclosure, I was working tonight. I wasn't working Saturday at 3 o'clock, funnily enough, but I was working tonight. So I've only seen the goals, sort of was from where I seen the game from. So the majority of it is sort of me asking the guys how the game went and asking them their thoughts on it. So me asking the questions, and we'll have a chat from there. See how this format works out. So let's get. We're obviously going to have a chat about the Celtic game today. A bit about Lewy later on. We'll obviously get into the controversy, but we'll get into the meat of the game first. But first off, I'd just like to quickly say, obviously Cardiff broke the news about Sol Bamba. Just a quick message to say our thoughts are with him. The news that he's going to be battling cancer. So, Bamba's a fighter, very strong man. So I'm sure he'll just sort of like say our thoughts are with his family at this tough time. But anyway, let's
well said, Gav.
Cheers. So let's get on with the Celtic game. So it finished 1-1. But first off, let's have a chat about the lineup. Then it came out. Obviously, we'll get to Celtic's lineup in a second. But Dave, from the lineup, did it look like it was predicted to be a 3-5-2? Is that how you seen it set up?
Aye, to start with probably, but I didn't feel like it was that as the game progressed. But yeah, did look like Murphy was just sitting off Nisbet up top. Yeah, we're right in the right.
There was a lot of Craig. There was a lot of talk about Stevenson making his 500th appearance, which he did off the bench. But I think a lot of us expected him to possibly start, especially after Doig had a tough time with Frimpong last time at Parkhead. How did you feel when you seen Doig was starting on that left hand side?
I felt fine. I mean, he kept Tavernier relatively quiet at Ibrox a few weeks ago, and I think that certainly attacking wise, Tavernier's a bigger threat, offers a bigger threat than what Frimpong does. So I felt fine with Doig in it, left back, left wing back, however it played out.
And we're going to talk about the controversy a bit more in a minute, Stuart. But the Celtic lineup still a strong lineup, even with 13 players out.
It really was. I think there was only two names in that Celtic lineup that I didn't immediately recognise. One being the young laddie Welsh, who I think it was kind of pointed out a couple of times that he was spotted by Tommy Burns' son while playing out in America, and the other lad whose name's completely escaped me right now, which is very embarrassing considering
Harper.
we're live. Yeah, Harper. Apart from that, you're looking at that lineup, and there's a lot of money being spent on it. There's a lot of those boys that walk into practically any other team, minus Rangers, in the top flight. We maybe got a wee bit ahead of ourselves and excited that we were going to be playing the Celtic under-10s tonight. But it didn't quite work out that way. However, up front, they were definitely lacking. There was no real target for them up there. So our defence should have been in for a decent night.
I certainly think just on your point, Stuart, about the team, if that team is different, say Harper's not there, but Griffiths, Edward, Klamala, or Ayeti are at the top, that's a Celtic team that could start any league game, for me anyway.
Yeah.
Welsh has started a number of league games and cup games this season, so I know Stuart said he's one that didn't sort of recognise straight away. He's one that has been getting game time and playing. So, there's a centre-back that's not just coming in and making his debut. He's been in and around the team. I think he's played at right back as well, so a bit versatile. But the rest of the team, like you say, it was a very strong lineup, Dave.
Yeah, it was strong. Just they lacked that probably cutting edge up top, but their defence still looked shaky. Or on paper it looked shaky. Duffy at the back, and like you say, Welsh is still young.
So getting into the game, I was listening to the radio on the way home to try and get some of it, and they were saying on 810 medium wave that they talked about how Hibs were having their best spell in the second half. We'll come back to that, but they said their best spell probably since the first 15 minutes. So Craig, starting with yourself, what was so good about the first 15 minutes from Hibs' point of view?
Just felt like we wanted to get them on the front foot and really press them back, and not let them get out. I think we had 4 or 5 corners in the first 6 or 7 minutes.
Yeah.
Now the point about the corners itself, we'll talk about separately. But the fact that we were showing some intent, going forward, too often we go to places like Celtic Park and Ibrox and we just sort of sit back and try and soak up the pressure. But there was no. I didn't sense any sort of and certainly in that first sort of 15-20 minutes anyway, that we were going there and playing for a draw or trying to keep them quiet. I felt like we were going for it early on anyway to try and force that early goal.
Stuart, your thoughts on the start to the game?
Yep, got to agree with that. We really did try and push them early on, try and get them in the traps. This was going to be a good opportunity, however much we talked about the strength of the team there. One thing I do want to say about the corners, maybe a little bit off piece here, but why is it that whenever we're taking a corner, we saw it so many times with Halberd tonight, he's placing the ball about half a foot out with the D? Why do players do that? Why is it stealing that extra couple of inches such a massive thing?
We still hit the first man.
Yeah, every time. Are we practicing these? Sorry, I know I meant to be the happy clapper in the room, but
no, I mean there's a comment from Matty Reid there, Reedy_16, saying we are shit at corners. So I mean we'll quickly chat on that. Like I say, we'll come back to this game in a second, but. I mean, I think it was something like 8 or 9 corners we got over the full game, Dave, and we didn't really seem to create anything memorable from the corners, from those opportunities.
Nah, well, the delivery's not good enough. It's what Craig was saying, and it's like Halberg, very poor, balls in the box, and then you get Stevie Mallon coming on, and you know that it's coming. Like commentators that just don't watch Hibs and. They've just got this thing in their head that Stevie Mallon's this absolute wonderful set piece taker, and it just sticks in their head. And it's like, no, not recently. He's not been at all. And then he hits the first man straight away.
I mean,
you say recently. If you discount the last 2 years, he's been brilliant.
Yeah. And if you discount the last free kick as well that he took, but we'll get back to that later on. So we've spoken about the first 15 minutes. Stuart, what was your thoughts on the rest of the second half?
I don't know. I don't think we invited them back into the game as much. Celtic maybe kind of grew in a little bit of confidence from it. That laddie Sorrow seemed to be getting away with absolute murder. He was spoken to a couple of times by the referee, and just kind of you saw them do the classic kind of point, last chance, things like that. You're like, really? Come on. I mean, this is something we can do here, but we just didn't take early enough advantage or keep them on the back foot too much for me.
And Dave, I know in my absence you were taking the notes from the first half. Is there, or from the game? Is there anything else from the first half that you had of note?
No, it was just like you say, the early pressure. Like we made the keeper made a couple of saves, like Newell and Nisbet had a good one, and I found myself agreeing with Chris Boyd at half time. It was weird that he should have committed Duffy a bit more. 100% should have.
Who was that? Should have committed? I'm sorry.
Nisbet. He took it early and. He should have probably done a wee bit better, because obviously we all know that Duffy's had quite a rough time of it. So, and then apart from that, like Macy made a good couple of saves at the end of the first half. Celtic started to get back into the match probably about half an hour.
Yeah, the one that was heading high into the net, definitely stretched him, and then the second one kind of causing their corner towards the end of it. Good height for the keeper, should be saving it, but I was more impressed with the time where he came out and gathered the ball really, really well from a wicked cross there, and it just kind of breeds you a bit of confidence. especially for a player that, okay, he's maybe had a couple of training sessions with the lads, but it's not a game situation.
Yeah. We kind of limited Celtic to nothing first half. They had the shots for pops outside the box, and then that young Harper kind of went through on goal when you slipped at the edge of the box and gave the ball away, and he probably should have done better, to be fair. Apart from that,
like I say, I mean, over the whole game, and sort of getting ahead of ourselves a bit, but the Sky Sports pointed this out at the end that Celtic had 7 touches in the opposition box. Hibs had 20. That's the lowest all season from Celtic. So yeah, obviously you'll say about the different attackers that Celtic had up top, but I think still credit's got to go to Hibs. We nullified their threat at least, and sort of helped, because there's still a lot of talented midfielders in there that can create chances, and we help keep them quiet. So let's have a look. So I can see that Doig came off and Lewis Stevenson replaced him. Was that a tactical change, Craig? Do you think?
I think listening to Steven, well, we were a bit baffled at half time as to why Doig came off. I thought he dealt with Frimpong reasonably well and also offered us a bit of attacking outlet on the left. Stevenson, when he got interviewed after the game, says he felt his hamstring at half time, so that's why he was taken off.
Right, okay. Hopefully it's nothing severe with it. Hopefully it's just a precaution with the hamstring.
Because tactically it wouldn't make sense.
Yeah.
For me, it wouldn't have made sense.
He seemed to grow in confidence as the half went on as well. There was a couple of nice little touches, turns, linking up well with us, but it was great to see him. So, yeah, a bit of a surprise at half time. But if it's an injury, then, yeah, these things happen. But brilliant to see Stevenson coming on for number 500.
Yeah, we're going to, a bit of a spoiler, the start bench cell is going to be Lewis Stevenson themed today, and that's going to give us an opportunity to chat about him quite a bit. And the next sub was Doig came on. When I first sort of heard the commentator say about Doig, I was like, I didn't think Doig started. I thought maybe the commentators had got Doig and Doig mixed up, but yeah, Doig came on. Dave, was there a change in shape with Doig coming on and Murphy and Nisbet still staying on the pitch?
Aye, we changed that diamond. So again, pointed out by commentary, Murphy just went to the tip here, but it probably helped a bit because I thought Nisbet was very isolated. You could see it plain as day at the start of the second half. We just weren't getting the ball anywhere near him, so it was good that we changed it that quick. But Doig never really brought much the rest of the game, if I'm being brutally honest with you. He was just kind of there.
And I think it's Celtic were kind of turning around. One of the ways they'd been turning around their form, Craig, was playing that diamond themselves. Am I right in saying that's what they went with today, with Johnson and Harper up top?
I don't know. I felt like they maybe went with, because it certainly seemed like Harper started on the right with Johnston through the middle, and it was almost like they were sort of they were quite fluid in terms of, I mean, I'm sure I've seen Rogic at the top of it at one point with Harper and Johnston out wide. Sorrell was definitely sitting at the base, but whether it was like a sort of 4-3-3 hybrid into a diamond at times. But I certainly thought that when we did switch to diamond, I certainly thought that we got more opportunities out wide. In terms of getting the ball out to McGinn and Stevenson. I just think that the frustrating thing is that when you're getting the ball in wide areas, you're giving it to McGinn and Stevenson, who, while offer you something defensively, unless Paul McGinn's 6 yards in front of goal, I don't think he really offers much from an attacking outlet in terms of his delivery.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's I understand maybe trying to go like for like, but when Hibs have played a diamond, or I remember there was a spell under subs, it was maybe more of a 4-3-1-2, which is maybe nitpicking, it's still a diamond. We had Gray and Stevenson kind of in their prime in the Championship, bombing forward, putting a lot of crosses in. Stevenson's not been doing that so much recently. McGinn seems more, although he sort of chipped him a few goals, seems more of a defensive fullback rather than a wing back. It's kind of hard to create chances when you're sort of playing those two in a wing back system.
Yeah, I think it's almost down to personnel, not so much tactics for us there. We were chatting before we came on air. Some of the substitutes as well, I felt were maybe a bit too negative. I do think Celtic were there for the taking tonight, despite the strength that they've had in the midfield. We've pointed out already the issues that they've had in defence throughout the whole season, nothing to do with the issues facing them tonight. But, and this is where I kind of struggle. I'm quite the fan of Hallberg, but Craig correctly pointed out at the start that he's maybe just another bit of a slivka about it. Sometimes he'll have an absolutely brilliant game, and then the next time you'll wonder what the hell he's up to. Taking him off for McGinn for me wasn't the right tactic there, and I think it could have allowed us to maybe kind of sit back, and it would almost make you think that Ross was happy going for a draw.
For me, that screamed going for a draw. Like, not going for a draw would have been bringing on Bradley, or probably would have made us a bit lopsided, but Gullen, someone like that. Bringing on McGinn at that point of the game with, 12 minutes to go, maybe something like that?
Yeah, 12,
like,
15,
for me, definitely screamed that Ross was happy to take the 0-0.
We all said that in the chat straight away as well. I was like, that for me, just wrong move.
Yeah.
When I say the radio I was listening to sort of said about as the second half went on more and more, the game sort of seemed to get a bit more stale and less chances were getting created. I know Hibs started to kind of get a few corners again off the back of that, but still no sort of clear cut chances. Do you feel the game sort of started to dry up a bit from that point out?
There was a lack of quality, from both teams. My papa phoned me and was just like, "We need a bit of composure." He actually thought Stevie Mallon coming on might be quite good, because whilst I'm saying he's not got that quality that he had a few years ago from set pieces, like in the middle of the ball, if in the middle of the park, if he gets on it, maybe he can create something. Because losing Joe Newell as well, like he slipped through a lovely ball to Hallberg as well, in the second half. But losing him, it's like you're taking away that person that can maybe spin a player and create something.
I'll tell you, I want to put it to the boys. There's a few people in our chat saying Hallberg should have done better there. I don't know what more else he could have done. There was almost a hint of offside for the move. Flag stayed down for it, but the keeper was just out so quick, made himself big. I think trying to dink it over him was the right way to go for it. I think going any lower, the keeper's going to stop it again.
I think he's maybe caught in two minds between trying to dink it over the keeper, but while also mindful of the fact that the keeper's rushing out at him and there's a potential that he could get hit. So he's kind of just tried to do that thing where he can almost nick it and then just get his foot out of the road as quickly as possible.
Yeah, a wee bit more commitment maybe.
Yeah.
But he had one in the first half as well, first touch.
Poor touch, aye.
Yeah. So again, I've said this for weeks, it comes down to a lack of quality. Yeah,
that's, you can see in the chat folk saying about, how we should have went for it. And while, to a certain extent, I don't disagree with that, I don't think that in the right areas of the pitch we've got the quality to enable us to go for it. You take Hallberg out of that team and put in Scott Allen. You take out Dre Wright and put in Martin Boyle. Aye, there's maybe a chance to go for it. I don't think we had the personnel in the side today for us to necessarily go for it. Like we said before, I thought in the first 15, 20 minutes, we had a good go. But at some point, if you just keep having a go, you're going to leave yourself vulnerable to a counter-attack. And Celtic had pace, with Johnston and that. Harper seemed quite quick. And then also when they've got somebody like Rogic who can, turn a player out of nowhere as well, you don't want to find yourself being on the wrong end of that.
Again, I think... Again, though, I think we kept their midfield pretty quiet, to be honest. Massive shout out to Gogic. What a game he had. Everything that kind of didn't happen for him during the Livingston game was right for him tonight. He was battling in, he was getting absolutely everything. Okay, it's never going to be the prettiest, but it looked more like the player that we thought we were getting from Hamilton.
Yeah, he kind of just won the ball back and gave it to somebody else, which was kind of all you were needing. So
yeah, great to see. I mean, I think a lot of people sort of started to doubt Gogic after the last couple of games, but I think there's quite a few players have sort of dropped their form, and as a team we've dropped their form. I think it was a bit unfair that people were sort of singling out him. He had a good start to the season. I think we'll still see the best of Gogic still to come. I noticed sort of in the chat here that Mad Mental Hibs said, how good is Newell? Big miss if he's going to miss the upcoming games. So was Malin coming on for him? Was that a tactical change, or did Newell go down with what seemed to be an injury?
He went down, and as soon as the Alice band came off, you knew.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what it was, because he got up and tried to play on, but it was pretty clear that he was struggling. So hopefully it's more of an impact injury rather than a a sort of muscle injury. Because if it's a muscle injury, that would be a big miss for us.
Yeah, well, that wee laxative for Celtic was at it all night. He honestly, I don't care how much he looks like a wee lassie that came away from Benidorm where her hair braided. Honestly, the amount of times he was putting in a little slide egg or nick or something like that, he was going to injure somebody, and it just so happens it was Newell.
Yeah.
And again, sort of going off the chat here, Liam McLennan, who's obviously on the podcast quite a bit, he's put, thought we defended really well and they never really had any top-notch opportunities, the free kick aside. So, I mean, let's talk about the free kick. I did see this, a needless free kick to give away. Stephen McGinn didn't need to give it away, Dave.
No, but then we debated this in the chat. He did win the ball, but probably shouldn't have put the challenge in where he did. And that sums it up.
Craig, what did you think? Do you think he actually won the ball and it wasn't a foul?
I think in this day and age of football, you can still win the ball and commit a foul. It's hard to tell for the footage whether he gets the ball and player at the same time, or if he gets the ball just before he gets the player. But I just feel it's a needless area at the park to be committing a foul like that anyway, especially when he's just came on. He's came on to enable us to see out the game, and he's immediately put us in danger.
Yeah, well, to be fair, the Macy poor kicking for him, that kind of put us under pressure, because that made Celtic run at us, and then McGinn gave away the foul. But as soon as the free kick got given, you just knew.
Yeah.
That was it.
With the position that free kick, if he's not putting the challenge in, we're immediately screaming that he's allowed him to run through. You're saying, put a foot in, come on, put a challenge in. He's almost a bit damned if he doesn't there.
I think he can stand them up a bit, though. Instead of diving in and giving the referee that option, just don't put the foot in, just get tight to him and almost try and jockey him rather than trying to nick the ball away. For me, anyway, that's just, obviously, that's the way that I've seen it.
And Stuart, we spoke about the quality of the Celtic lineup, attackers aside, and one of those names obviously was Turnbull starting the game. He's really establishing himself as a Celtic player, which I'm sure a Celtic podcast would go into a lot of detail about, but a tremendous free kick from him as well. Yeah,
it was a fantastic free kick. I think we can sit here and question the keeper's positioning for the free kick. We can wonder, should Hanlon have jumped as well? If Hanlon's jumping, more than a little skip there, it's probably deflected, but fantastic free kick. Yeah, Celtic spent decent money on Turnbull, and Turnbull's really kind of playing his way into the Scotland Euro team for this summer.
And I think it's fair to say we're talking about trying to see the game out earlier on. Dave, Celtic were trying to see out the 1-0 win from there. So I don't think they've done anything else from there on out.
No, they never done anything the whole game, if I'm being honest. I thought we were so comfortable. I never felt at any point they were going to score. So it didn't come as a surprise to me that they never done anything after they scored, and they just kind of settled a bit. But that's the frustrating thing. We started showing a wee bit more intent to get that goal, whereas I think we could have done that at 0-0 rather than waiting till we were 1-0 down.
Yeah, we definitely showed more urgency when time was away from us.
But why? Because Celtic were offering nothing. They were still offering nothing, and then we started putting them under a bit of pressure. So,
and getting the cliches out, I'm sure there'll be some headlines about a game of 2 free kicks. Craig, we spoke about Malin's delivery earlier on, but to be fair to him, this was a really dangerous ball at the back post. Got headed across, the keeper flapped at it, and Nisbet in the right place at the right time, like he has been so many times this season. I'll be honest, I celebrated that goal quite a bit. One of the goals I've celebrated quite a the most since the sort of watching games from home.
I mean, I don't know what. Just want to say my point on the Celtic free kick.
Yeah, sure, go for it.
I don't think it's as good as a free kick as it's made out to be. For me, it's not went in the top corner. It's preventable if Hanlon jumps and doesn't stand still. And for me, it's also preventable if Macy stands in the middle of his goals, rather than maybe a foot or two to his sort of, his left-hand side away for the ball.
But is he not going to that side because he's expecting the wall to do their job? Which obviously Hanlon
Aye,
didn't.
but the way that keepers go these days, the majority of them stand in the middle and then react to it either way. I mean, if they get beaten because the ball's whipped over the wall and it's right in the top corner, there's not much you can do. But for me, the wall's not done its job, and I also think, without being too critical, that Macy could have done better with it as well, because he almost gets to it. He's not that far away from getting it from where he started. So maybe I'm just being too critical.
I'll put it to the chat list. They let us know in the chat if Craig's being critical of Macy, or do you feel it was that he could have done better in our agreement with Craig. And like I say about Hanlon as well, I missed that initially, but I'll have to go back and watch the goal again to see Hanlon not jumping. I've only sort of like say I was more concentrating on getting this put together than watching the goals back. Craig,
but in terms of our goal,
let's get talking about Hibs goal.
I actually thought it was set up for Malin to try and have a wee near post dig at goal, to be honest.
I was very surprised the way he plays. I was very surprised he didn't do.
Yeah, but obviously their keeper's just absolutely flapped at it. What the keeper was playing at, I've no idea. And then the half-arsed attempt at a clearance, I think it's for Duffy on the line as well. And it's almost a carbon copy of Laxalt's equaliser at Easter Road, where it's a poor clearance.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
For the defender, and then obviously Nisbet in the right place at the right time. I mean, I know he's went through a bit of a barren run, but the laddies, I've said it in the chat, and I said it just when we came on as well, I will be genuinely gutted if, due to this pandemic, that we don't get to see Nisbet play in person, because he's genuinely he's been a shining light in an otherwise season for me at times.
But you say it's a season. We're sitting fourth. I still think we're going to push for third. We're into the semi-final of the other cup as well here now. And I still think that we're in a Jack Ross building period.
Yeah.
So it's something I'm quite willing to defend. He's still going to get the right personnel in, if, without going into transfer rumours and things like that, if the guys that have been heavily linked with us are saying they're straight into that first team there tonight, and they are offering some real quality that could have been the difference for us.
Yeah, I mean, let's have a wee sort of chat about that. I mean, obviously, the name that sort of was mentioned was Jackson Irvine. I mean, we'll go into that later on in the next podcast. But I mean, Dave,
I want to point out nobody said his name on Saturday during the live one.
But yeah, so I mean, looking at, I mean, Dave, if look at the team we're talking about, what Celtic are missing, if Hibs are potentially missing Irvine, who's potentially to come in, Cadden, Allen, McGuinness, Rocky, and potentially another striker, and let's just get greedy, a centre half as well. That's that could make a massive difference to the team in terms of kicking on for the rest of the season.
And Martin Boyle was missing the day too.
Martin Boyle as well. That was the other one. I knew there was another one.
No, it could make a massive difference, and I think a lot of the names you've mentioned there probably do bring you a bit more quality than we showed tonight, and a bit more of an attacking threat. Because I think Halberg's too flat. We're very straight-liney, like quite boring, predictable. So that's what we need. We need somebody that can change that, and a few of the players probably can do that, to be fair.
So it could almost be put to us that we had just as many line-up issues as what Celtic did. If you look at the names that you just rattled off there, okay, excluding Irvine and Cadden, who aren't with us just yet, but there's a heck of a lot of quality players there that just weren't in our lineup. I would have honestly panicked if Hibs had been in that position tonight of missing 13 first-teamers.
I don't even think we've got 13 first teamers.
That's it.
Guys, we can't rabbit on about what we're missing though, because we're no Celtic. So it's all about them, and that's it.
Craig, your thoughts on those names that we've kind of rattled through and what difference they would make to the team with all them involved?
I certainly think that going from memory, Jackson Irvine anyway, could be that sort of missing link in the midfield almost. I mean, I remember the League Cup final against Ross County, and John McGinn was absolutely anonymous because Jackson Irvine just completely marked him out of the game. I also think that, you know, he's certainly good enough at going forward. Also, in terms of Cadden, it depends on where he's going to play, because we now seem to be signing a lot, you know, interested in a lot of players that can play in the same position. You've got, you know, we'll have Newell, Allen, Gogic, Malin, Halberg, McGuinness. Did I say McGuinness?
No.
McGuinness, Irvine. You know, there's what, 8 players for 2 positions if we're playing 4-4-2.
Yeah.
So I think we might see movement going out as well as these players coming in, but definitely names that have been mentioned, in addition to getting somebody like Scott Allen back, will definitely give us more quality.
So let's have a chat about so I'll finish up on the game then. So I mean, we'll always put out the 3-word review, so I'll give you a minute to think about that. But Dave, would you say a good point, considering, you know, it's Celtic at Parkhead and we're still impressed with the lineup, or would you say 2 points missed?
I think, and I've seen a few people saying it in the chat, a few people saying it online and that, and they probably sums it up perfectly. It's like an opportunity missed. We've not won there since 2010, and we probably won't get a better opportunity to go back and face a Celtic side as toothless going forward. Like, fair enough, they still had some decent players, but I think there was more an opportunity to have a go at them tonight because they weren't really having a go at us. So,
when you seen the lineup, who did you think was favourite for the game?
I thought Celtic were the favourites for the game.
So surely you're happy with that point then?
No, I'm still saying that. No, I'll stick with my opinion. We'll not have a better opportunity to go to Celtic Park like that again and face a team that toothless. 7 touches in our box. I'm not happy with it. Before the game, maybe, but the way the game played out, I think it was there for the taking if we hadn't been so negative.
I think just on the 7 touches in the box chat, I think it shows that the defence is a lot, you know, we're getting back to that sort of defensive solidity that we had in the early parts of the season. I mean, regardless of the players at Celtic Mess, you know, they still had umpteen international quality players on that side, and we limited them to 7 touches in the box. The only goal they got was for a set piece. You could argue the only goal we got was for a set piece as well. But
it's probably too soon to say the defence is back though, since we just got.
No, but it looks.
Ross County.
But given the level of quality that the 2 losses that we've just had,
yeah, that was a much better performance
against the level of quality that we've just faced tonight. It's a much better performance, and I'm hoping it looks like we're on the way back to being a bit more solid in defence.
Just had 9 days or something to work on any shape mistakes and that. So I hope that's what we've done, since we didn't go away anywhere. See, we done all that without going to Dubai.
Yeah.
Good old East Mains.
Yep.
I think that this could have been a completely different podcast tonight, and that goes whatever way the result goes. We could have been facing. Well, let's be honest, we were a couple of minutes extra time away from, right, that's 4 games in a row. We've lost 4. We've not scored. We've not faced it. We wouldn't be talking about the positive side of Celtic's lineup. We'd be saying, how did we not get these guys to the sword tonight? We lost 1-0, blah, blah, blah. So, and the way the ball fell for Nisbet to blast into the back of the net, when things aren't going for you, those kind of opportunities don't land in. It's a football serendipity out there. So I think it's a bit of a back on track for the 3-word review tonight.
Back on track, I like that. Craig, what's your 3-word review? Come on, I gave you 5 minutes to think about it.
Could have been better.
Could have been better, like that. Dave?
Yeah, I'm just going to say that as well because I didn't even try and think he won. To be honest with you,
Brilliant.
I'll type one in after.
Thanks,
I've had
Dave.
too much today here. I'm here.
So yeah, I know we usually do the T-word review on social medias. If you've done that, great. But get your T-word review in there. I can see a couple of people have put them in already. Liam has put in Malin to deliver, which was good. But yeah, get your and another one here from Mikey. Same old right. What was your kind of thoughts on Dre Wright's performance?
Don't come to me.
I'm meant to be the positive one, so aye, Dave.
I wrote halfway down my page, and it's there that you can't really see it. It doesn't matter. I don't know why I'm showing you, especially in podcast form. It's not very good. Dre Wright's playing ? That was just before half time. And that's
I think
what he does.
He done one thing. He cut inside for the right, and then passed it off. And then when the ball came over at the left, and as the ball sort of moved back across the other side of the park, he was literally walking with his back to the ball.
Yeah, he's very much.
So the ball was there, and he doesn't know that the ball's there.
Yeah.
I mean, Craig and Dave, I got your opinions on this the other day. So Stuart, I want to come at you this. I mean, he was described by St Mirren fans as a pacey.
St Johnstone.
St Johnstone. I've been working on it. I've worked on a 13-hour shift. Leave me alone. I get one mistake a podcast, so that's it. We've used it.
How long have we got left?
Stuart, what's your opinion? I mean, St Johnstone fans described him as a pacey, tricky winger, and he has been quite passive at Hibs. Do you think that's maybe more instructions from Jack Ross, or do you think that's more his style of play that we've kind of been lied to by St Johnstone fans?
Yeah, they've sold us a turkey. No, not at all. I think there is. I still want to say there's a player in there, but we've discussed how Martin Boyle isn't running at his man anymore, things like that. So part of me wants to think it is instructional, but Wright is quickly turning into a Josh Vela. He isn't what we were kind of looking for. He's not what we've been promised. And the new Hibs regime, or the new setup that we've got with regards to kind of player management, scouting, I don't think we're frightened to move people on if it's just not working. Yeah,
I mean, we did. To be fair, we did get. I mean, Josh Vela moved on quite quickly, but obviously Tom James was there for the majority of the season, and that clearly wasn't working. Although there's this chat that he's going on, but we'll see what happens with Wright. I mean, I'm still hopeful that he's just taking a bit of time to settle, and he's going to prove everybody wrong. But maybe I'm just too hopeful, and try to see the
so
best.
Is he a Vela or a Newell? Watch this space.
Yeah, Vela or Newell, watch this space. Let us know in the chat whether he's a Vela or Newell. So I think
he's a right off.
Oh. Let's get chatting. I don't want to talk about too much, but obviously this has been the major talking point today is DubaiGate. So I'm going to send you guys the photo that I've just put on. You can't see it because of the live stream, unless you are watching the live stream as well. So I'll send this over to you just now. I just literally done this as we were talking. Sorry, it's no better. But yeah, what a mess, Dave, to start with.
It was an absolute shambles. And to be fair, right, see when we equaliser went in, I proper celebrated as if we'd won, right? But not because we'd got a draw, like nothing to do with that. It's because they paid for going to Dubai, didn't they?
Yeah.
We would have let them off. Imagine they had just won 1-0, they would have got away with it scot-free. I'd have been absolute fuming. So it's such a relief to make them pay. What you sent over on this chat? You're confusing me.
I've sent over so you guys are on Zoom, so can't see the live stream. But I've like I said, to have a thumbnail for each topic, I've got a photo of Scott Brown and Neil Lennon on a beach.
Yeah, very good.
Thanks. Stuart, that's what Stuart was laughing at. So Craig, I mean it's just a bit of a mess. Obviously, like there's been Nicola Sturgeon involved, there's been health ministers been involved, there's been chairman's been asked questions, sporting directors, Graham Mathey sort of speaking, and we'll come back to Hibs in a second, but just sort of saying on this, I mean, it's been a bit of a mess, and I think a lot of fingers have got to go to the SFA for a lack of clarity.
I just think it's baffling. I mean, no often I'll say this, but Andy Walker hit the nail on the head in the pre-match, but I think it's the most honest bit of coverage I've ever seen Sky give Scottish football. He made a point about clubs, Celtic have said about the loss of revenue, about COVID and blah, blah, blah. And they're away chartering a flight to Dubai for what you're talking, maybe 50, 60 people. 5-star accommodation for 5 nights. That's not going to be cheap. At a time, especially now, with the further restrictions imposed, that, people can't go and see their families. We can't, we've all got, you've discussed in the past about your mum, Gav, wanting to give her a hug. I've got a son that I can't see for God knows how long because of all of this. And it's just such short-sightedness for, regardless of whether it was agreed before the new restrictions, like, especially when you see the pictures that have came out as well, that they were, I don't know if you've watched, but I watch, Ben Foster started doing a YouTube channel.
Right, okay.
So basically what he does, he vlogs his match days. So the night before and the night after, and basically when they go to, when they go away for away games or even home games, they basically go to the hotel, get their food, go back to their room. Like, that is it. And then you see the pictures of Lennon and Brown sitting by the side of a pool, having pints. You see the photo of them sitting in a bar with pints everywhere. It's just, I've been arguing with people on Twitter about it for the last couple of days. Funnily enough, the only people who see a problem with what the rest of us are saying are Celtic fans.
Yeah, funny that.
But no, it's something that I felt really, really passionate about. And I would have felt the same if Celtic were playing Dundee United tonight or Kilmarnock tonight. It just goes to show the level of influence that they have at the higher reaches of the game. When, you've got the whole Kilmarnock, I know I'm rambling on about, but you've got the Kilmarnock St Mirren thing about them getting docked points. Forfeiting games and Motherwell getting awarded points. And that was what, maybe 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago that was decided.
And then the appeals are in just now, so they're on.
And the appeals on, like, in the next week. Yeah, Ian Maxwell was on, I think it was PLZ earlier, saying that Celtic have nothing to answer for. I just think that maybe legally they don't, but I think morally they've done it all wrong.
Yeah, a bit frustrating, Stuart. I was watching BBC News today, and there's a guy who his wife's in a nursing home, and he's seen her once in 9 months. It was that thing about, the quick tests, and then you can get a result, and then he had to give her a hug with all the PPE on him and stuff. And he's seen her that one time in 9 months, and then you've got them going for a piss up, having pints, clearly not social distancing, taking the piss when the whole country is kind of going through some shit there now.
Yeah, again, just to reiterate what Craig said, Andy Walker played an absolute blinder. I genuinely wondered, watching Sky coverage tonight, if they were going to sweep it under the rug a wee bit, but by God, they went for the jugular. They really kind of did pick up the mood of the footballing nation and how we feel about it. At the end of the day, for me, whether they got permission or not, the world is constantly moving and evolving right now, and we all have to make sensible decisions otherwise. The money thing aside from it, it's just not in tone with what the rest of us are having to experience. And at the end of the day, what's the bloody point in going to Dubai for a 4 or 5 day training camp for them to come back and play in the East End of Glasgow on a Monday night, and it's absolutely hosed it down.
Yeah,
the night. I genuinely don't get warm weather training, and I've got a pal of mine who's a big Celtic fan. Him saying, so the reward for losing the second Old Firm derby of the season, being 19 points behind, is a piss up halfway across the world.
Ridiculous. That's the sort of thing that should be getting scrapped. But Dave, let's sort of move it on to Hibs. In my opinion, I'll get your opinion now. I thought the statement was brilliant from Hibs. A wee bit of dig in there as well, but overall really classy. I thought the fact that Hibs asked for all the players to be tested again. They gave their own players an option to sit out the game if they wanted to. And I thought Graham Maffei came on and spoke brilliantly. His tweet was really good as well, but I thought he spoke brilliantly on Sky Sports before the game. I did manage to see the clip of that. But yeah, his tweet as well about how it's been a crazy 24 hours. I can imagine it's been hectic with the people that are left working in HCC, obviously very limited because of COVID and stuff. But what was your reaction to Hibs' response to the whole thing?
At first, I was a bit like, are we going to say something here or that? Like what's kind of going on? And then this kind of day went on, and everything was coming out from Celtic and from everywhere. There was papers picking up stories about, oh, Hibs have asked for this, Hibs have asked for this, and we kind of spoke about it in the chat. We knew that Hibs would be doing everything behind the scenes quietly and just going down the right channels. And then obviously that all came out when the statement came out. So I was quite happy that we had a bit of class the day. At least one club acted with a bit of class, and we came out all right in the end.
I did like the wee dig about Julian as well.
That was fantastic.
Yeah.
Like that's the part for me that, like, he's the one who's out for 4 or 5 months, so should be nowhere near it, and he's the one that catches it. Like that if anything goes to show, it wasn't a warm weather training camp.
Yeah.
No.
Why is he there?
Why do
It was a
take
team building exercise.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't get this whole. I mean, I know it's different rules because Andy Murray was going over to America, but Andy Murray had to, when he was sort of going over for a tournament and going over for a training camp, he had to get there and then isolate for 2 weeks before he could start it. Whereas Celtic are just back playing a game. Like they're back on the 8th and playing on the 11th. Turnbull, Duffy, and all that sort of stuff. I know Duffy came back a wee bit earlier, but. Yeah, Stuart, I mean, like I say, just sort of getting back to Hibs, a great response from Hibs.
Yeah, fantastic response from Hibs. I would like to have seen us showing a bit more teeth around the reports that of Celtic refusing further COVID testing, the SPFL actually threatening us with points deduction and things like that if we refuse to do it. At the end of the day, Hibs are an employer. And we have got a duty of care to our staff, so to speak. And it wouldn't have surprised me if a few of them had said, look, I have to care for a relative. I've got a wife with a young child, things like that. Look, I'm not happy to go into I employ people. I work with people. It's only fair to kind of say, look, are you comfortable to do this? In a certain situation right now, I think people are more than entitled to say no and not fear for their livelihood or their health.
And just to sort of finish up this gig, I mean, I just sort of final thing on it. I think a lot of Hibs fans' blood was boiling when they seen some of the things about Celtic are the ones that have done something wrong, and Hibs are being the ones that have been threatened with docked points. And what's his name? I can't remember. Delahunt. Coming out with Hibs have got to consider they might be putting the whole of the Scottish season in jeopardy here. They've got to think about what they do carefully. Or whatever he put, I'm paraphrasing, but what a ridiculous statement to make from him.
Yeah,
and sort of that media bias towards the old firm showing again.
Exactly, and like folk are saying in the chat, this all started when Celtic moved the fixture without our consent.
Yeah, that's I had my dig about that at the start. I was off on Saturday for the game. I missed it.
And Leanne was very, very vocal on that. That, it was done without our permission. It was done without, well, not our permission, but even without, our courtesy. And then when it was done, when it was asked, we refused it because it didn't suit us.
Mm-hmm.
And then it went ahead and done it anyway.
And then when we asked for a COVID test, it's refused.
Exactly.
Just go ahead anyway.
I mean, you can bet your arse that if it was Celtic and Hibs' position and Hibs and Celtic's position,
mm-hmm.
they would have been firing out statements left, right, and centre.
Yeah.
It just, for me, like Dave said, it's all the more pleasing. And as much as, it's like picking what one of your mates you want to see with your missus, in terms of Celtic or Rangers winning the league. For me, it is so pleasing to see that not that Rangers are going to win it, but that Celtic are going to lose it, and they're losing it in the fashion that they are. And, we're now doing, and it's now, we've now stopped it. We've made it even less likely. As much as it was unlikely before, we've now made it less likely that they'll have any chance of catching Rangers.
Do you not think when we play them in the top 6 later on in the season, we should just shift the fixture?
Just for a
request
laugh.
for it.
Just fucking move it. I don't care.
Come up with a shitty excuse. Yeah,
Well, that was the thing.
We're at home. We should have the.
You're at home. Well, we weren't going to contact you, but well.
They brought
Sorry,
it in,
guys.
They did not bring that thing in a few years ago where they could move friendlies for lucrative move games for lucrative pre-season friendlies.
Yeah.
And so Celtic could host like Getafe and Rangers could, get a visit.
Celtic didn't play anyone over there.
Lucrative pre-season friendlies in the Premier League down south. Aye, I mean, who are we going to attract as a lucrative pre-season friendly? Like Blackburn, Sunderland. Like it's just aye. But anyway, long story short, Celtic absolutely get it right fucking up them.
I know.
I'm quite pleased that we've taken 4 points off them effectively this year.
Yeah, I just wish we'd taken off another one. Another two, sorry. Or whatever it is. I'm bad at maths. Somebody correct me. Yeah, I wish we'd got the win tonight. But yeah, let's move on to some positive stuff to finish up. Obviously, Lewis Stevenson won his 500th cap. 500th appearance tonight for Hibs. Fantastic servant for the club. We've spoken about it a lot, but obviously our thing we do a lot is start, bench, sell, and then when we do start, bench, sell, we talk about the players and sort of reminisce about them. So I thought this would be a great opportunity. I'm sure I've got a graphic up here for this. I'll need to put that one off. There we go. Lewy500. So what I was thinking we could do is start, bench, sell with Lewis Stevenson, but we've got three Lewis Stevensons. We've got the Lewis Stevenson from 2006/2007, obviously winning the League Cup, man of the match performance in the final, playing more in midfield. The 15-16 season where he won the Scottish Cup and obviously attacking fullback, and the 17-18 season where we finished fourth in the league under Neil Lennon. Big part of that team, especially in the 3-5-2 and stuff. So, so Dave, starting with yourself, what's your sort of memories of Lewis Stevenson's first season?
Well, you're going back a wee bit here. I was amazed at how small he was, but then how much he would just get fired in. Do you know what I mean? And he was quite direct, he was nippy, and obviously could play a couple of different positions. So, no, you could tell he was going to be decent. And it's that cup final against Kilmarnock that kind of sticks in your mind. Got man of the match that day, didn't he?
Yeah,
he did that. Yeah,
and Craig, it was one of those ones where Kevin Thompson's obviously left in the January, and John Collins, didn't matter about age, sort of went with Lewis Stevenson as the replacement in there, and he slotted him brilliantly.
Mm-hmm. I mean, at least it knows for me that since Stevenson made his debut, that I've seen 500 Hibs games. Because I was at his very first one when we played on a pre-season friend. We'd done a pre-season tour to Ireland, and that was when he first made his appearance. Also, quick question: what keeper made his first appearance over there as well?
Andy McNeil.
Nah,
no idea. Who was it?
Zibby.
Wow, there you go. That worked it well.
And that worked out well. So
could have just left him in Ireland.
No, Stevenson, regardless of what your thoughts on him are now, has been an amazing servant for us. And he's shown that, he's been there for what? That's 2007, so 14 years as a first team player. All the managers can't be wrong.
And Stuart, like say, finish up with the sort of 7-8 season, 6-7 version of him, or season of him. That performance in the League Cup final was sensational, wasn't it?
Yeah, there's not many 19-year-olds that will come on and get a man of the match in a cup final.
Especially when two of the strikers both score 2 goals.
Yeah. It was just a phenomenal day. I seem to remember my heart sinking a little bit, just being a typical Hibby when Killy brought it back to 3-1, thinking, "Oh Christ, here we go. We're gonna absolute collapse here." But just wasn't to be that day, and it's always kind of great to see the pictures. Lewy celebrating back at Easter Road. He's so young, bless him, and kind of reminds me of my own fading youth, I suppose.
That big head of hair that he had, sort of almost like a Beatles haircut at the time. And obviously, I mean, we spoke about this Scottish Cup, Dave, loads on this podcast, but happy to do it again.
Never mentioned it.
Not just in the, obviously done well in the league. Obviously they didn't finish off that great with the League Cup final and obviously the playoff semi-final, but the league still fantastic performances from Lewy all the way throughout. Never really injured. We brought in, I'm sure that might be in the season we bring, somebody will correct me if it wasn't, might be in the season we brought in somebody like Eckersley and didn't get anywhere near him. But yeah, that Scottish Cup final, that his reaction at the end, just and the fact that he was, there for the second person that left the cup as well, just completely deserved.
Yeah, that season, superb. That whole team, though, we talk about it, it's just a team of absolute legends, and Stevenson definitely played a massive part in that.
But how close was it to being just an absolute disaster?
Close to being a disaster this season.
We're not talking about that. Come on, Mr. Positivity.
But it never happened.
I was going to turn it back round. Sorry, I wanted to interrupt Dave. I want to interrupt Dave so he was about to be positive for a second there. Sorry. You know what? It just showed that day we must have had about 4 or 5 captains on that pitch. Lewis Stevenson definitely being one of them. And they all just had to dig in. They all knew what they needed to do that day. And there's a reason why the young boys coming through always speak so positively about Lewis Stevenson and his influence. And all you have to do is look, okay, to some, maybe Hibs isn't the most glamorous of footballing destinations for it, but there isn't many players out there that get anywhere near 500 appearances for a club these days, especially one in the top flight.
Yeah. And sort of finish up with the 17-18 season. Obviously, a great season under Lennon. Our highest points total, finished 4th. Some incredible games of football, Craig. I mean, the standouts for sort of me, like the 5-2 or 5-3 against Kilmarnock, the 5-5 game against Rangers, just so entertaining. I'll be honest, I missed the crazy results. But yeah, I mean, Lewis Stevenson, especially that second half of the season. I know Boyle played a lot of right wing back and occasionally Gray, but then we had the 3 centre backs. Louis at left wing back, McGinn, McGeoch, and Allen, very balanced midfield. Canberry and I mentioned them, and McLaren up top. But Louis, a big part of that sort of really exciting season. Some really good football, and yeah.
No, definitely. I think, and you go back to the game against Rangers at Ibrox as well, where he played centre half. That was a, I think we've all got our opinions on Lennon and how his time at Hibs ended, but we certainly went on quite a journey that season.
Right.
Like you say, with high scoring games, like exciting players on the park. I think it'll be a long time before we see a midfield of the level of quality that we had, at that time. But with Stevenson as well, I just think it's, we've all got our own sort of favourites. We all hark to the days of Riordan, O'Connor, Sawsey, Latape. An older generation will go back to players like Stuart. I'll say, say like Pat Stanton, Shadler, O'Rourke, the Tumbles Tornadoes, and so on and so forth. But for somebody who's been knocked as much as Stevenson has, and how much he's been criticised over the course of the last, however many years, no one that's ever played for Hibs can say they've won the League Cup and the Scottish Cup. And I think for that to be an academy graduate as well is something quite special.
And absolutely. To be fair, Paul Hanlon will be able to say it by the end of this season. So
fingers crossed.
And Dave, I mean, Craig said about sort of the manager sticking with him, but to be fair, there was a few that didn't. McGivern got pretty much a full season at left back. Kajabi got a run in the team. There was some other left backs that came in, but he's sort of outlasted them and sort of proved the ones that those players are not remembered fondly. And there's an argument that Louis should have got to 500 a lot sooner.
Yeah, he's seen off a few challengers that probably should never have been anywhere near a Hibs top. But I'm a wee bit disappointed that he made his 500 today, if I'm being honest. I would have rather it was maybe the next game, like made a start, and rather than coming on the day when the headlines tomorrow are all going to be about Celtic and DubaiGate still. I know we'll have our own headlines that Lewy made 500, but
that almost fits Stevenson's personality, that he'll just fly under the radar.
Yeah, it does.
And he's got a fantastic future in advertising for energy saving. So I think that's something you can look forward to.
And his kids as well.
No, the kids perform a lot better than he does, to be fair. There is a fantastic short, almost kind of talking heads type interview with him on the Sky Sports Twitter right now. And Lewy does go on to say that he felt that Lennon did get the best out of him as a manager. So definitely worth catching if you haven't seen that.
I was like I say, just about to start my sort of second half of the shift, and so I quickly put on. I seen the first question, which was he said, "Who's the best player you played with?" And without doubt, he just went John McGinn. And I was like, "Well, I'm definitely watching the rest of this later on." But aye. So let's get your answers then. So start, bench, sell, a bit of a different one. But Dave, who you starting, who you benching, and who you selling?
Starting 16, benching 07. And selling this one. We can go and be a coach.
It's not this one. It's the 17-18 one. So the one under Lennon.
Oops. I'm still I'm still selling that one.
Fair enough. Craig?
I think I'll start 17-18, bench 15-16, and sell 06-07.
Ooh, interesting. Stuart?
Yeah, I've got to agree with Craig, but I would refuse to sell any version of Lewis Stevenson. Because if we sell him in 07, then we didn't have him today. It's all about timelines and all that, people.
I kept 2 cup winning ones. Craig's just benched a Scottish Cup winner.
Well, I'm going to cheat because I'm the host and I can do that. I'm going to start the 07 one in central midfield, play the 16 one at left back, and the 17-18 one at left midfield.
Oh, the power's gone to your head. God.
So let us know who you'd start, bench and sell at HFC Talk. I'm sure I'll get a graphic made up and put it out. And also let us know your favourite memories of Lewis Stevenson. I know it's something we talked about in the past when he got to 400, but yeah, it's great that he's got to his 500. The graphics I've put up there was, I can't remember what that one it was, but the goal at Ibrox and obviously winning the Scottish Cup. He's been a fantastic servant. It'll be a long time before, or if ever in our lifetime, we'll see somebody, as professional and so loyal to Hibs and get to 500 like that again. But hopefully it's just a fantastic legacy he leaves, and just a fantastic guy to have at the club. So yeah, congrats Lewy on the 500th appearance. So yeah, we'll wrap it up there, guys. I know it's 11 o'clock, so this question doesn't really plan much, but just bed for everyone, I'm guessing.
Yep, got in my bed.
Alright.
What about tomorrow then? Any big plans tomorrow?
I'm leaving the house.
What's your plan? I mean, know that you can really go anywhere. Apparently up in Scotland, takeaways are shutting as well. I know you're down in England, Stuart, but what's your plans for tomorrow?
You know what? I'm just going to get out early doors and go for a run. Just right. Where I live, I'm right beside the south coast, so I can go right round down the front on the harbour. Can't wait. Get a bit of fresh air in my lungs.
Fantastic. Dave?
For as you're watching for the boats coming.
That'll be it.
Dave, any exercise for yourself? I know you've been doing the healthy eating. We obviously have the big challenge to sort of see who loses the most weight. You got any exercises planned in for tomorrow?
I might. I pulled out one today because honestly, man, I can barely move for the other day still.
Yeah. I
had to get lifted off the couch twice. I swear.
Hey, you've got a podcast to do. Let's get you up.
Agony. But I went on the bike late afternoon today to try and ease myself off. But Jesus.
Are you able to try and fit Dave into your work schedule to go in and see him, make sure he's okay?
Yeah, you'll need to. I went to go to my bed last night at 11 o'clock, started getting up the stair, and I got up the stair about 11:15. That's how sad I was.
And Craig, I know you sort of mentioned it earlier on, you were having sort of eggs and things like that earlier on. Any sort of healthy meals planned for tomorrow?
Don't know yet.
No plans.
No plans. But I'll get my minimum 5,000 steps done on my lunch, and then see if I can be arsed to go out afterwards.
I have to say I'm quite lucky with the job I've got. The fact I'm out and about, I didn't even realise. I had to look at my watch about 8 o'clock, and I've done more since then. It was 8,000 steps I'd done, and I was just from working.
Well
I didn't even realise I'd been out and about that much, but apparently I had. But yeah. Can
we vote this clown out of the chat?
Aye,
because he's doing my fucking boxing.
Who's that?
Liam.
Oh,
Liam.
Yeah, I can see that there's a big purple for lots of Liam talking about fish fingers and all sorts. But yeah,
It was the Craig, give me a wave if you fix your PS4. Craig, if you didn't fix it, it's your head. You need to send it to Sony, blink 3 times if so. Like, you can try to be serious, Kim. We're a serious show.
No, we're not. So yeah, let us know your thoughts on all the things we've discussed today. Your thoughts on the draw, if it was good enough. Your thoughts on Lewis Stevenson. Your thoughts on Dubai. Your New Year's resolution, if you're doing any healthy stuff. So if you've got any healthy meals you'd like to recommend at HFC Talk, we all appreciate. We're trying to lose as much weight as we can. So get rid of these bellies. So any advice is much appreciated. But yeah, we'll finish up there, guys. Enjoy the night. The rest of the night, which is just like Sage Street's going to bed, but I'm going to get this uploaded, so this should be up so if you've missed any of the podcasts, it should be up soon wherever you get your podcasts. But yeah, thanks again, guys, and enjoy the rest of your night.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.